Yeah, no, I was told by Cardiff Airport that they're getting ready for a June start.
Right, okay. Like I say, whether people want to travel or not is going to be different. Right, so it's now, I make it bang on 5:30. So thank you for those of you who've joined us so far. Hopefully we'll have a few more come on. We did have about 10, 12 people registered. I think we're currently at 8, which is good. So the first chat with Penguin today, Nicola from NRG Group is kindly joining us. So Nicola has gone from 1 to 9 in 12 months. So Nicola, do you want to tell us a little about yourself before I start with the questions?
Yeah, okay. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. Thank you ever so much for inviting me to be part of this, Craig. When you rang me the other Sunday morning very early with your dog walk, I was a bit worried about why you were ringing me, but obviously it's always a pleasure to speak to you. I run a company called the Nicola Rylett Group, and we help businesses transform. There's 9 associates, and 3 of them are joining us this way today, and we look at all the various business aspects, so whether it be HR, finance, sales and marketing, commercialization, those kind of things. We help businesses transform based on your vision and what you're trying to achieve and the reason why you're in business in the first place.
Fantastic. Okay, so guys, I did one of these last week for those of you listening, and there's a chat box and a question and answer box at the bottom. I'll be asking Nicola questions. I'll chip in when I can, and then any questions and answers that come through from you or anything in the chat, I will try to fit into the conversation. Our plan is to go anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes. Feel free to drop in, drop out, do what you want. I'm also recording it and we will share this afterwards. But the whole point is to try and just spitball some ideas, give you some value, for something you can take away into your own businesses, own lives, and share with your own communities. So Nicola, why don't we start with what was your initial reaction when this happened, when this all started, and on Monday the full lockdown was announced? What did you do initially?
Well, first of all, I couldn't believe it. I'd literally been on a 24-hour trip to France. I'm just telling Craig I bought a house in France. I was down there delivering a kitchen. Went across at 11 p.m. on Friday, came back at 11 p.m. on Sunday, arrived in Cardiff at 2 a.m. in the morning on the Monday. And I just didn't know what had happened with the world. I was quite confused, to be honest. I just couldn't happen. I was a bit blown away. But once I'd realised what was happening, we sort of decided quite quickly, my husband and I and one of our associates, Kerry, to work from home and just start working our normal work, but from a different location. So it was quite calm once I'd realised that the world had changed. It did take me a moment or two to realise that, but once we'd realised it, we then sort of just changed where we work from. We just continue working.
So what were your first immediate thoughts and reactions to clients, both and ones that were already maybe taking some kind of service from you?
Well, obviously, do you know what? I did take a moment or two, actually, because I felt it was important not to jump on a bandwagon. In fact, I did a blog post about that. Clearly, things were up in the air for everybody. And I think it's important when things are changing to acknowledge what you know and what you don't know. I think that's important. And I didn't know how I could help at that stage. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what the change. And so I did send a very brief note, probably towards the end of that first week, actually, not right at the beginning, to my clients and prospects, associates, suppliers, and people that are my stakeholders, really. And I just sent a note saying, we're okay, we're here, we're absolutely stable, we're continuing to work. But at this stage, I'm not sure how we're going to be able to help you. But in the future, we'll be able to sort of come around to maybe some way of helping you. But at the moment, we're just going to say, we're here. If you need us, contact us and we'll help you that way.
And how do you think, since that moment it all happened, how do you think it's affected business generally?
Yeah, so it has affected my business and our business. I've noticed some of my associates have had an absolute increase. Kerry Chown from Colbert HR, she's had an absolute increase in people asking about HR issues. But for my sort of sales and marketing and customer experience, customer journey sort of work, I've probably had 50% of customers ask me to hold the work we do for them. And of course, we would do that. We've done it straight away. As soon as anybody asks us, we hold the work. It's important to think long term, not short term. And if I go about asking people to sort of, okay, yeah, but I'm gonna, we'll have to charge you a cancellation fee. Why? Just stop everything, hold it all up, and as soon as we can get back to it. However, I have got sort of, I say, 50% of my customers that are either virtual organisations or doing things online that actually have been able to take this opportunity to pivot and continue to work. So I think there's 4 groups of people. There's people that have had to mothball their businesses, and I've got a couple of those. There are people that have been able to pivot. So I've got a manufacturer in North Wales that's gone from making paper straws and sustainable paper straws to actually making visors and face guards for the NHS and cups for the NHS. So they pivot really quickly. I've also then got people.
Me asking, is that something they've given to the NHS, or has that been bought by the NHS? So they're still managing to generate income and turnover?
I don't know that. I'm sorry, I can't.
I'm just curious.
I don't know. I don't know which way it is. They were just telling me they had to do all the, obviously the retooling of the equipment and reskilling the staff, and they furloughed at the beginning for a couple of weeks whilst they did that, then got the staff all retrained, then switched. So you've got people that have mothballed because they, absolutely, they're in events or restaurants or whatever it might be. You've got people that have been able to pivot really quickly. You've got people that are continuing to work as they have always done, and then you've got others that actually had seen a massive increase and an opportunity. And so we're just working with each customer and helping them within those four sort of, is it viable, is it not viable, how, can you pivot and then make it viable? So we're helping them through those situations.
My favourite pivot is probably BeFit. BeFit, you know Kevin as well, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I use Kevin's gym, and I know one of the other attendees also uses Kevin, but within something like 48 hours, he'd gone, the gym had to shut on the Friday, and I think within somewhere between 40 and 72 hours, he had literally moved everything online. I don't know how much time it cost him and how much money it cost him, but within all the members, immediately there was online, and he put a load of nutrition stuff on there. He put other classes if he didn't want to do the live classes. I think one of the best pivots I've seen. If you haven't seen BeFit, guys, go and look at what they're doing, because I think the 7-day trial for everyone. I think Nick.
Yeah, and I think that different leaders, I mean, we're all leading our own organisations, and different leaders have approached this in different ways. As I said at the beginning, when I first heard about it, I just stopped for a moment because I wanted to gather all the information I could to see what might be best for the people that I'm supporting and who I'm working for. Another organisation that works in HR, they spent absolutely hundreds of hours looking at all the regulations, the furlough laws, and they put really good information out to their members of the subscription product, but also their customers and also anybody else that wanted it. And I think that they took, right, okay, we're going to provide information. We're going to help people through this and provide information. Patrick Lencioni from 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, he did the same thing instantly overnight, took all his products and made them all free for everybody to use, because he said as leaders, we have to help each other through this. So, people have taken different tacks. People have protected themselves and said, right, okay, we're going to mothball, we're going to protect, we're going to be back when this all turns around, we're going to be back as it needs to be. Others have gone, no, I'm going to pivot, I'm going to protect by actually keeping going and getting some revenue coming into the business. And others have then said, I'm going to actually just give information out and it'll come back to me in the end.
So what have you done differently then, apart from obviously now working from home and reaching out to those clients in the early days? What have you done differently?
Well, in terms of different for the business, we've obviously been spending most of our sort of coaching and mentoring time virtually. So obviously it's a bit of a different way of working. And I've found that actually we've had to shorten the sessions. So rather than having a day's workshop, we're doing them in 2 and 3 hour slots, because you can't stay online that long and be proactive and positive in terms of the work that you're doing when you're doing interactive workshops. The associates and I over the last couple of weeks have been developing a new sort of product or a new pathway to help people decide whether they're going to be viable in the long run. I mean, I'm not sure if we want to acknowledge it or if people just think it's a done thing now, but obviously there's a recession coming, and it's how big that recession is going to be. So the team and I decided to come up with a sort of a pathway to help people understand how to prep for what's happening at the moment, but also then how you then want to look at that in the long term. So will you be viable in the long term after this crisis and in a recession? Will you need to pivot? Will you need to protect? How do you reassess your business and then recreate what you need to do to move forward?
So go on then, what have you seen others do then?
So what have I seen others do? Right, okay. So as I say, I've seen some people give lots of information out and build a reputation around being providers of really good, detailed information. I've seen others, I suppose really, the most dramatic thing I've seen would probably be the retooling of the factory and completely pivoting products. I mean, the paper straw manufacturer, their tools are made to make straws, and to retool all that and to create a whole new area of business that they weren't in before, I think that's quite a dramatic change.
Anything else? Anyone else you've seen? Did you mention something to me about you thought that effective HRM did something?
Yeah, they're the people that have been providing lots and lots and lots of really informative pieces around. The interesting one that I thought was about Legionnaire's disease. They sent a note around about our offices. And if you don't have water flowing through the offices and you have standing water in offices, it could be a health and safety issue in the long term. I thought that was quite interesting, a different, unique way of thinking about actually what we might all consider. So yeah, there's quite I don't know, lots and lots and lots of webinars and information pieces and people trying to help you just answer questions. I think the connections that people are building, you know, the IOD do a weekly thing, you're doing a conversation. I mean, last week I got invited to 25 different networking or webinar kind of events, and a number of them are being positioned as educational. I think they're really, really positive.
Okay, let's maybe jump around. So I had a couple of questions come in before we started. So if someone was going to make a change and start a new business today, what specific advice would you give them with COVID and without COVID?
Well, actually, to be honest, I think it would be the same. There might be some sort of afterthoughts with COVID, but the starting the business is the same. So I'm doing a number of these things with the Accelerated Growth Programme with the Welsh Government. So I'm doing 4 at the moment, 4 different people setting up businesses at this time. For me, I think it's about lean startup. So because of COVID-19 and the potential recession coming, I would look at creating a minimum viable product and getting it out and testing it really quickly. Spend less time planning and putting lots of widgets and fancy things on your product and get it out and test it. Secondly, think more about costs than normal. So that links back to the minimum viable product, but don't over egg your costs. If you can try and get this up as quickly as possible in a really simple way, then I would do that. Thirdly, I would do something. Don't just be planning. Obviously, yes, you need to consider everything that's going on, and you have to think if there's any new considerations with COVID or the recession. But actually, I would just crack on and get something done. You know, I'm a big action girl. It's all about doing something every day if you can. And then I know you feel really strongly about this, but I'll start the conversation. Maybe you'll finish it off, which is start with your why. At times like this, in times of conflict, in times of crisis, in times of challenge, actually tapping into your why and your just cause for what you're trying to set up will keep you going and keep you on track and make sure you're absolutely where you need to be. And then once you've got that, map out that journey and those milestones and crack on and get it done. But it's about using your time wisely. I was speaking to a gentleman, I won't say who it is, on the AGP program yesterday, and he gave me his milestones and his timeline and his Gantt chart, and I went down the Gantt chart and literally it had hundreds of lines, and I said to him, how much time a week have you got to start this company? He said, oh, about 2.5 days. I went, okay. And how long do you want before your company's going to be online and selling products? He said, oh, about 90 days. I said, good, 90 days, that's good. I said, so in effect, you've got sort of 40 hours to get this product, and you've got 200 lines of actions that you need to do to get this product done. I said, let's be honest, that's not quite going to happen. So you need to use your times wisely. Look at everything you're doing and prioritize. Must you do it? Could you do it? Should you do it? Or actually you're not going to do it? Moscow rules. There's lots of different prioritization products, but you know that I use Moscow quite a bit. So when we did that, we actually pulled it down to 15 things he needed to do within the 40 hours. And that's much more doable. And he knew and was focused on getting that done. So for me, it's using your time wisely and really thinking to yourself, yes, absolutely. It'd be really important to make sure that I understand I've got the T's and C's of everything laid out. However, is that going to get my product out in 2 weeks' time? Yes or no? If it is, great, do it. And if it isn't, leave it and come back to it later.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think just coming back to starting with the end in mind is important, and then I think knowing your why and starting with the end in mind. So what if you are going to start something new, or you've already been thinking of starting something new, why are you doing it? What are you passionate about? And make sure that in whatever you do. Okay, so we've got a live question as well, so let's jump there. So Michael's thought, I love the quote from Warren Buffett, when the tide goes out, you discover who will swim in naked. What advice would you give to leaders to ensure they are not naked in the future when a new normal comes?
Well, it's all about building resilience, isn't it? I think, in my opinion, and there's 2 forms of resilience. So for me, it's business resilience and it's team resilience. I love that quote as well, although it does make me worry about going swimming. But anyway, nobody needs to see me swimming naked. But so two sort of areas of building resilience: business resilience and team resilience. Just some bullet points on business resilience. shore up your cash flow, make sure you understand where your current cash is and what your cash position is. If you have to restructure your cash, do that. Future business planning, so start with the end in mind, we've already said that, and look at the pestle factors. What are the political issues? What are the environmental issues, social issues? Just consider those, maybe with your coach or your mentor, get them to ask you some questions about what that really means. And if you don't know the answers, we all sometimes don't, go and try and get network to find those answers. Recession proof, that again is all about making sure you're financially got the right systems in place and that your creditors and your balance and your resources are in the right line. So building a plan to say, if I lose 10% of my revenue, this is the action I'm going to take. If I lose 20% of my revenue, this is the action I'm going to take, 30% and so on. And having a point where you say, right, okay, if I get to 40%, I might need to restructure my resources. Knowing that beforehand helps you to then not worry when you get to that point. I would always focus on customer experience. The more you can build your customer experience, you can excite, you can delight, you can build your reputation on that, then that's always going to come back and hold you in good stead, because they will be your loyal customers moving forward. Develop commercial plans. So some people will take opportunity, and they should, but when you're developing your commercial plans for a future idea, build it in a way that's modular. So you can get to a point and then say, no, we're not going any further, it's too risky. Or you can continue to the point where you know, but you don't overcommit, you don't overinvest, and you're watching your money. And then be connected and just watch. Be ready to move at the right time. We've seen through this crisis thing, the first week, everybody was a bit, what's going on? Second week, oh, right, okay, so we need to understand everything. What grants are we getting? What help are we getting? What support are we getting? I've got lots of questions. Third week, people calmed down a little bit and we started connecting with each other. We got a bit more information. We all felt we were sort of moving forward. We were sort of going through some of these questions, and then, a bit more used to it. So I would recommend keep connected, keep asking questions, keep watching, and then when it's right and you feel you're in a position, you've got enough information to make a courageous and calculated decision, then do it.
Yeah, I would just add to that, maybe before you go on to team resilience, because I know you mentioned doing team resilience in there as well. I think a couple of things about keeping connected. I mean, one thing we decided as a business right at the start of this was, while we were all working from home, is just taking an hour a day and deliberately reaching out to 6 to 8 clients, prospects, business owners, whatever, probably for each member of the advice team, and not looking to do anything new, just reaching out. And the amount of thank yous just for having that human contact, the amount of fresh work we've got off it, which is obviously great. It wasn't what we were looking for, but that's great. So I certainly think if you're not already in communication with your clients, even the ones who said stop now, I think, I'm sure you have, I'd still be reaching out to those ones that are maybe put things on hold, just so they got someone else to chat to.
Practical tip here. I do 3 things a week. I have a weekly digest, which is a 2-minute read where I just give my thoughts and views on various things, and a number of people have asked to be involved in that. I send personal emails to people I want to keep in touch with, and I make some phone calls and have a virtual coffee once a day with somebody. That's a tip from Carrie. She does lots of virtual coffees, and she said, look, it's a really good way of keeping connected, because remember, it's not just about you giving your time to support somebody else, but also they'll be supporting you, and the conversation could lead to collaboration and lots of different ideas that just send you off on a path that then just solves a problem later on. So I'm always that one for connecting and keeping connected. Did you want to do team resilience? Because there's some more tips.
But let me just add on to that one, because I quite like what you said then. And I think you mentioned, I called you a week Sunday ago, like first thing in the morning. I was listening to a webinar which will start going out on my LinkedIn, because the guy who ran it from the States gave me permission to share the webinar. And I liked something that was in there. It wasn't his idea, it was from someone else's. He was talking about how clients of his or he'd worked with, their business might be shut for now because one of them was an estate agent, for example. I think the other one was a restaurant owner. They had lists of clients. What he was talking about was how they were still communicating with their clients, where they couldn't do any work themselves, couldn't generate income themselves, but they were offering other services. And that immediately got me thinking, even though we're still in touch with our clients and we're still available for services, what extras can we do that aren't financial services related? So last week we emailed all of our clients. I went directly to Kev after I saw how impressed with BeFit I was, and Kev's given all of our clients a 28-day free trial to his website, so we can add to our client bank. Not only are we doing your financial fitness, we can now help you with your physical and mental fitness. I'm actually waiting for someone to come back to me to offer some mindfulness.
I mean, and that's really authentic to who you are, though, and what Penguin stands for, isn't it? And that's the key. I definitely wouldn't advocate just creating a new product for the sake of it. and jumping on a bandwagon if it's not really what your business is all about and how you work. I think that is exploitation in some regards of the situation, and there are different levels of exploitation, and we've talked about there's many people saying about how they don't think this company should have something, or how this is inappropriate that this company's done X, Y and Z, but that's because it just doesn't sit well with the business. So I was very careful. I felt a little bit like we delayed a while, but I didn't want to do that because I didn't want people feeling I was taking advantage of anybody or exploiting the situation. That's really important to me. I wouldn't do that.
I think just going back to Michael's bit about not being naked in the future, I feel like by just giving, like this, giving stuff away, me hold you in good in the future, give away because I like to help, but also hopefully it'll come back, give us gain and all that kind of stuff. Do you want to move on to team resilience?
Yeah, so team resilience for me is, again, some bullet points here, is all about leadership. It starts with you. As a leader of an organization, you have to, in effect, assume the control that might be missing in your team. And you've got to understand and empathize with how they're feeling. So take control and take responsibility. But take control about how you respond as well. Are you calm? Have you thought these things through? Have you looked at the long term? Do you understand where your goals and your vision are? And have you got a plan? And are you able to connect with your team, as Craig has said, and say, I don't know the answer to that, but go on, we'll work on that together. It's all driven from purpose, and it's about reframing that mindset. So with your team particularly, coaching will be important here. And if you've got somebody that's not quite behaving as they normally would in the work environment, are they being a bit quieter? Are they taking longer to respond to certain emails? What's happening? Then you might need to help them just reset the frame a little bit, and to reset their mind, and to look at what they can control, and to look at how they can take this time to develop something new, or to work on themselves, or to grow themselves. Reminding them of their strengths. So using the GROW model with your team, if you are coaching, reminding them of their strengths and then working on those strengths is a really positive thing to do, because you can control yourself. It's really positive to hear that you've got some strengths, and then using those to develop your strengths even further through collaboration and those kind of things is really important. I would definitely stop complaining and get your team to stop complaining. And if you hear it, you need to be really sort of positive and action oriented to say, look, that's a problem. Okay, let's not complain about it or moan about it. Let's start figuring out how we improvise to solve it.
Yeah.
Then you can get them to collaborate and get them to look at how they can move forward with solving that problem. This is all from a Harvard Business Review report that looked at coaches in the States, that looked at team resilience. And one of the things they talked about, which we'll all know in Wales, is very well done in rugby, is the visualization of the positive outcome. So, they stand there and they do the whole looking up at the sticks.
Yeah.
The ball's going to go over the sticks. Well, that's really important in terms of team resilience. Getting them to practice success and understand what success looks like is really important. So getting them, your team, to give you the scorecard of success. What will it mean is you're coaching them. How would and you're really good at this at Penguin. What was successful this week? What would success look like next week? And what am I going to do about that? And then finally celebrate that success. It's really important that even no matter what small win, at the end of every day, at the end of every week, get your team to send you a little note saying, I've done 3 things really well this week, and celebrate that and catch them doing something really good.
I like that. One thing I picked up on the weekend on my study group, so my study group where we met once a quarter, we're now doing weekly Zoom hangouts on a Friday afternoon and having a drink and a chat. Someone in their network has taken the time to write a handwritten letter to each of their team members. How often do we get nowadays? Very rare. But for the boss of the company, the leader of the company, whether they're furloughed or not, he's written every one of his 50-something staff a handwritten note just to say something nice to them. That's something is on my to-do at the end of the day. Well, I thought that was a fantastic little. None of my team are watching. No, they're not.
It's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned, but I do these little motivational postcards, and I sent 20 of them out last week to various people, right. People that friends or business colleagues, and I literally various different. Some of them said thanks, some of them said keep going, loving your work, whatever I thought was appropriate. But I sent a load of them out last week. Just again, obviously you need to be careful. You can't sometimes have people's personal addresses, so you do have to know the person very well. So don't do any data protection issues, folks. But yeah, no, absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Sending little gifts from Amazon. You know, if you've got a team, then you can send them a voucher for Amazon or a voucher for something that you think they might like, and that would cheer them up no end.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's take another one of the questions that I had in advance. So let's go with, oh yeah, we just talked about loosely in the sort of coaching of your team. So the question I had in advance was, again, this is from someone getting ready to start their next venture. Is mentoring a good idea? You want to go first on that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, obviously we offer it, and I do a lot of it. I mentor young people and people in business. So I couldn't agree more. Absolutely, mentoring is really important. Actually, more than one mentor sometimes really helpful, and you can do that in a couple of ways. You can have one-to-one mentors, or you can have like an advisory board. I mean, I count you as one of my mentors, and we have lots of meetings and conversations, and I really appreciate, because at the end of every session, I'll always think something, and something will come to mind that I want to do, something that gets me inspired and excited again. So yes, mentors, very good idea.
Yeah, and I'd echo that, and we talk about it in our book, The Business Secret. So whoever asked that question, do go and read The Business Secret. But I think, if I look back on my journey to where we are now, I must have worked with 5 or 6 different mentors along the way, some in the profession, some not in the profession, and as you say, still do now. Chat to yourself, chat to someone else who's just joined, who's on the call. And my study group has been great, especially during this time, having that weekly meeting, whereas we used to meet once a quarter, has been really, really good. All and see what's happening in our practice and other people. So for that question, absolutely. Let's go. I'll take one more from the ones I had in advance. So let's have someone's asked, how should I be using social media to market my business in these times?
Well, I mean, I've just read a Harvard Business Review report about how you should market the brand in COVID-19 crisis. And they came up with, just so you know, it's sort of, I suppose, positioned from that kind of background. They said do 2 sort of things, really. First of all, present empathy and be transparent. So don't exploit. Make sure you have the knowledge to answer the questions. And if you don't acknowledge you don't have the answers, and ask somebody else. And then be authentic. So be your brand. Don't try to do something that's not in line with what you're about. In terms of the practical aspects of social media advertising at the moment, be really agile. So you need to look at where your audience is. So at the moment, at the beginning of the crisis, we were probably more about news and wanting to get news. And so that might have led more to people being on Twitter than Facebook, for example. I'm just using that as an example. Yeah. So actually, I'd have put more of my effort into Twitter and being on Twitter a little bit more. But actually now, at this point, more people are into entertainment. And you can just have to look at all the now subscriptions and YouTube sort of stuff. So I maybe spend more time on doing things on YouTube if you have a video channel, or doing more on Instagram with visuals and videos, because that's more entertainment, it's what people want at the moment. So that's the thing. Associate yourself with being a good brand. So if you can do something good, if you can give something away, if you genuinely have something that you can help and support others with, then do that, because that's really important. And I think the biggest thing I've found is that, talking about what people have done, I think the generosity of spirit, of support, of product, people are giving everything from their time to their opinions to the effort of supporting people. I think that's something we need to keep after this crisis. It's been wonderful. And then finally, feel good content. I mean, that's what the Nicola Rylett group's all about. We're all about energy. We're all about positivity, motivation. So I've just focused on doing lots of those and making sure that, like my blog this week was all about courage and how we have to be courageous as leaders. The one before that was about resilience. The one before that was about being positive. The one before that was actually, do you know what, I haven't got anything to say today. And is that okay? Sometimes it is okay not to know what you want to say. Yeah. So I think with the social media, be agile, be transparent, be empathetic, give generously, and try and create that sort of authentic brand that you're known for, really.
Okay. I'm not sure whether this one is really one you might be comfortable answering, but I'll ask it anyway. So someone's asked, that must be the new starter again, best networking groups in South Wales?
Well, I do a lot of networking, and actually it depends on you and your customers. So first of all, understanding what you want to get from your network. As Craig's mentioned, he's got a study group, that's a network. But actually that gives him a certain knowledge base, it gives him information, he feels comfortable, and he's got a psychologically safe space to explain questions and to interrogate things. So that group, it's a networking group, but it's giving him different things. It might be that actually you want a networking group that might give you new customers. So that depends on where your customers go, and the networking that you want to do should be where they are. So you've always got physical and virtual networking. Obviously, we're all doing virtual networking at the moment. Then you've got to decide what your networks are for you. Is it for your business and getting more leads and more customers, or is it for you to establish yourself in the industry and to get you support within the industry? So it depends really on what you're trying to achieve. So for example, when we first started out, I did lots and lots and lots of networking in small community groups around Newport, Cardiff, Swansea, various places, because I wanted to understand what SMEs were doing and how they were working in this area. Actually, over time, we've now moved to networking events like the IOD or the Institute of Leadership and Management, and bigger groups like that have got a much wider reach but have got different types of businesses, because that's the kind of business we're trying to move into. FSB, for example, they're another good option. But whoever asked the question, if you want to let me know, I've got a list of virtual and physical networking events, so I can give you a few tips and where to look.
Okay. Okay, let's maybe do two more and then we'll bring this to a close, I think. So what can, one of the question I had in advance, what can business leaders do to motivate their team right now? Obviously working from home, maybe Zoom, trying to set up Zoom calls can be difficult in their workflow, but what would you urge leaders to do to motivate their team?
Well, first of all, remind them of the purpose, give them focus, make sure you give them a real clear goal and that they accept the goal and they know that they can do something about that goal. So giving them ownership and responsibility for that goal will be really important. Once you've got that, coach them through being successful. You need to give them mini wins. So it's no good giving somebody a goal in your team that might not be able to achieve it, and they've never done it before and they don't know how to do it yet. They'd probably say yes to you and they'd give it a good go. But if they don't feel like they've achieved, it won't be motivational. So I would always start with coaching somebody to have the win, and then on the back of that win, celebrate that win. Make sure you're talking to them about how they've personally developed. So motivation is all about understanding the individual. So being more connected to your team is always good. And once you understand that, so if it was, for example, Craig, I know Craig loves learning. He loves personal development. He loves making sure he's connected to people and moving his business forward. So I'd talk to him about, right, okay, Craig, what can we do? An action piece to give you some more personal development to grow you into this next area.
Okay. Anything else on motivating your team?
I think it's understanding what motivates them. We're all individual. Some people will do it for the money. Some people will do it for the security. I mean, obviously, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, really. It depends on where an individual is. Again, if you want to see that document, have a look on the internet, but I'm happy to talk you through it. But, it's understanding what the individual is wanting to do and what makes them tick. So it's getting to know your people, really.
Yeah. Okay. Have you managed to read many books while we've been going through all this?
Oh my God, I've read so many books. I can't tell you. Hold on, I'm going to my bookshelf. Well,
I was only going to ask for your favourites. Share with the list. Share with people watching.
Hold on, there's loads. Right, so I'm a massive Simon Sinek fan, and the book club this week, we've got a meeting on Thursday night. If anybody wants to come, give me a shout. It's virtual. You can come. It's free. The Simon Sinek, The Infinite Game. Absolutely, you can see. Look at this. Absolutely fantastic. So many quotes, so many things to do. I've already started implementing it in my business. Alice Manship, one of our associates, said oversubscribed. It's all about how you can make your product. I think, Craig, you might have mentioned this to me as well.
I've read it, yeah.
Fantastic book. I'm only halfway through it, but I can't put it down. Legacy, for those that like rugby, really, really good book. So you can see where my theme's going at the moment. Subscribed. I haven't read this, my next one to read, so I'm looking forward to that. And I've obviously read Simon Sinek's Why and Simon Sinek Leaders Eat Last. So that's what my list at the moment is.
I was going to ask what your favourite was. I didn't want all six. I was going to ask what your favourite was, but okay, you've shared them all now.
Yeah. And
favourite box set? Have you watched any box sets?
Right. Okay. So I'm not saying it's favourite, but I'm completely obsessed with Handmaid's Tale at the moment. And it's actually really upsetting me. I'm obsessed with it, and it's upsetting me actually as a programme, because the premise of it is quite close to home. And I started watching it in the first week of COVID-19, and it completely got me. And it was quite scary and frightening. So if you haven't watched it, I'm only halfway through. Don't give me any spoilers. If you haven't watched it, it's all about a dystopia society. that changes the way it works. And the quote that got me on the second episode was, the lead character said, "It was amazing how we slept walked into them changing our life and our laws." And I had that sort of statement happen in the second week of COVID when they asked us to get locked down, and we were going to have to stay in. I was thinking, what's going on? Why am I having to be locked in my house? So I think Handmaid's Tale is the one that's been I've been most affected by in the lockdown. What about you?
You know, I've only read one full book. I thought it'd be like, you know, a holiday and I'd have loads of time in the day, but because I'm still working as normal, I just haven't, and because I'm not going to the jacuzzi now, whereas I usually do most of my reading in the sauna and jacuzzi. Like I go to David Lloyd, I'm not reading there. So yeah, I was actually surprised how low, because we're trying to do family film nights at 7:30 most nights, which is now getting hard because we've watched so many films. I'm really struggling. So the only book I read was so I read Infinite Game Ready for Tomorrow 8 weeks ago, and I cannot remember a single thing because I read it so long ago. Well, because I read it so long ago, and so much has happened since. Anyway. So Dave has asked. So Dave, you asked about networking tips. So I'll get Nicola to just tell you how you can find her and how you can email her in a second. What I would also say to you is, if you go and find the Business Secret podcast, which is Penguin's podcast, we launched middle of last year. There's about 22 episodes. Nicola was the second or third podcast. Go listen to Nicola's podcast because she does spend a good 5-10 minutes in there talking about networking tips generally and expands more on today. But Nicola, do you just want to share what you're doing with the virtual coffee, and how people can find you again?
Yeah, so I'm offering, as I said to Craig, happy to be connected and want to stay connected. I learn so much by connecting with others. So I've decided I'm going to do a virtual coffee every morning at 10:30. So if anybody would like to have a coffee with me, absolutely, just two people having a chat, talking about business, I'll be happy to give you any of my hints and tips or things that might be useful, and look at what your business is, what's happening to your business.
So how do they book that with you? Is that connected to LinkedIn or is that an email?
LinkedIn, email, it's Nicola at thenicolarylettgroup.co.uk, but LinkedIn or Facebook.
So Nicola normally, and then
I'll tell you what, I'll put it in the messages.
Yeah, go put it in there so people can write it down before we go and copy it and paste it or whatever.
Yeah.
While Nicola's doing that, for anyone else who's looking for something next to read, big fan of They Ask You Answer by Margaret Sheridan. So some of you might have heard me say that before, but if you're looking for how to market your business, which was one of the questions, They Ask You Answer is fantastic. I think the one I did read was the Donald Miller one.
Hold on, I've got it here. Story Brand.
Is that the book name or is that his business name? That's the book name, is it?
Yeah.
How to Write Your Story.
Yeah.
I'll find a way to email people afterwards. But yeah, Story Brand was good. I promised people who signed up today that I'd send them a free book. So if you email me, and I'll just type mine in. For those of you who don't have my email address, or send it to Penguin generally. For those of you who want what I think is one of the best books I've ever read, which is Cameron Herold's Double Double. Fantastic book. I listen to him speak whenever I'm in the States. If he's around when I am on conferences, I always go looking for him. I've had the pleasure of having a couple of phone calls with him. I've tried to get him on one of these. I haven't heard back yet. I think he's obviously too busy with his own stuff, but I did email him to see if I can get him on one of these conversations with. Yeah, his book Double Double. So if you drop me an email, I will send that on to you. Any closing thoughts, Nick?
No, it's been a pleasure. I hope I've given some value to people. You know me, I can go on forever chatting about these things, and I always enjoy speaking to you because, as I said, even whilst we've been talking, I've thought of a couple of other things that I've jotted down.
I've jotted down a couple of ideas, but yeah, and I've got to write my letters tonight for my team members. Thank you, everyone who's joined us.
Actually, do you know what? Actually, I do want to say one thing. Actually, it's really important not to beat yourself up at the moment. We all have time. But we'll all use that time differently. So some people will be using this time to develop their business. Some people will be using this time to work in their business because their business is continuing to work. Others will be doing personal development and learning courses and learning French and various other things. Some will be reading books. But actually, we have a choice on what we spend our time on. So just think about what's important to you and don't beat yourself up if you can't do everything. Focus on what's important, make that plan, and use the time to do that stuff. Don't worry. So it might be, for my friend, having a work-life balance and spending time with her kids has been amazing. And so she is spending more time with her children at this time than actually working on her business. And that's fine. She's reconnecting with her kids. That's really important. I've got somebody else that's literally working 12 hours a day on their business because they're protecting their business. and that's great for them. They need to be doing that.
Yeah.
And others that, you know, so just don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Look at what you want to do, think about the time you've got available, and then make the choice. Don't sleepwalk into something, make the choice about what you want to do.
And I think I just add to that, something I've been using in the business for a couple of months now is something I read, must be around Christmas time. Don't forget them. Most mornings we wake up and we get to do these things. We have to, whatever the choice is, business, personal, read, want to tell you, whatever, you get to do it. Be grateful that you do it. Lots of people have that luxury of time and control and keep serving other people. I think there's not so much you can do. Hopefully this has been useful to the many of you who've joined in. So drop me that email if you want the book. I'm on again tomorrow with Liam from Spin Dogs, who I'm sure many of you will know, and I think we've got a similar number signed up for tomorrow, whether it's the same ones or not. No. And next week, I'm delighted that the chap who did the webinar is coming on next Tuesday, all the way from the States. So we're doing it at 1 o'clock, so he hasn't got to get up too early. So feel free to join us and sign up for that one. So thank you, Nicola, for joining us. This will be available as a podcast as well, and I'll also send it out as a video if I can look at how to do it when it comes to my computer after I've been recording this, which I'm sure we're going to do. Okay, thanks everyone. Stay safe.
Bye everyone. Thanks,
Thanks,
Greg.
Nick.
Bye.
Ciao, Nick. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.